Show your support by visiting patreon.com/everydayastronaut.
Good morning. Hi, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, and welcome to my coverage of SpaceX's OTV-5, their launch of Boeing's X-37B super secretive but not so secret spaceplane. So the X-37B is currently tucked away inside a payload fairing, sitting on top of SpaceX's workhorse rocket, which is, of course, their Falcon 9, and that's sitting out on Launch Pad 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, and it's waiting to launch before Hurricane Irma comes, which is really scary. So wish them luck, because this is probably one of the last chances they'll get. So this is the 41st launch of the Falcon 9, the 13th this year, which is crazy when you think about it. That's almost a third of every Falcon 9 launch ever has been this year. That's insane. They're going to be attempting to land the first stage back at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base on LZ-1, which is about 6 miles south of the launch site. And then that will happen about 8 minutes after liftoff. And then we expect to see little to no coverage of the second stage at all, since this is a secret military payload. So after stage separation, they'll probably most likely only track the first stage as it comes back down. So I'm here to answer any questions you guys have, and let me know if there's anything we need to be addressing. We're going to be watching. This is a long launch window. They have like a 5-hour launch window today. Again, we have a hurricane approaching, and we might be having to wait this one out for a little bit. But I'm here. We're going to be paying close attention to the different updates and things like that. It looks like fueling has begun. It sounds like everything's good to go actually at the opening of their window. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this hopefully just goes right off at like 9 a.m. We obviously have their live stream pulled up. As soon as that goes, we're going to kind of switch over to that and make it a little bit louder and more obvious. So I need to, real quick before we kind of get to answers, I do need to give a big shout out to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. You're the reason this live stream is continuing to get hopefully better and smoother, a lot smoother. I've invested a good amount of money into new hardware, and I think everything's getting nice and smooth and buttery, and I owe it all to my Patreon supporters. So thank you so much, and to those in my Discord channel that are Patreon supporters. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, patreon.com/everydayastronaut. That really means a lot. That's about the only way I'm eating right now, is through Patreon support. So thank you guys. All right. So we have some time to kill, because it's going to probably be 40 minutes. I bet their live stream will start in about 20 minutes with their music. So we have a little bit of time to hang out. So let's see. Well, thank you, Santa's Hangout. I am using this one as a Sennheiser. So it's a shotgun mic this morning. I'm trying something new. I've previously used a Mojave MA200 tube mic, but it ends up you have to have it like in your face, and it's kind of annoying. So I'm trying just using a shotgun mic, since it can be a little bit further back, and I tend to move around a lot like this. So I decided, a shotgun mic might be better. So yeah. Hi to everyone's saying hi to Marcus House. I feel like I need to say hi to Marcus House. I'm not familiar, though. But hi, Marcus House. Thanks for stopping in. Thank you, the anti-space conspiracist. So, any questions do you guys have about? Of course I sell these shirts, guys. everydayastronaut.com/shop. The link is below. Or as you can see here on the screen, it's like everydayastronaut.com. Yeah, I have a web store. You can buy hats and shirts and mugs and all sorts of things. So, and all the prints from my Instagram account as well. So, oh, awesome, Marcus. Well, I like KSP too. We should do a race sometime or something cool. I keep meaning I've wanted to do a race to the moon with Scott Manley sometime, because he currently holds the record. I don't think I'd have to practice for a while to make sure I could actually, but like a live build, where you have like ready, set, go, build, get to the moon, back. That type of thing. I like that. So I think that'd be pretty fun. Sounds good. Awesome. Do I sell tickets to Mars? No one sells tickets to Mars currently. If they do, they are snake oil salesmen. Don't listen to them. There are currently no valid options to get to Mars. That's obviously one of the things that's most exciting about our friends at SpaceX, is that is their overall mission, is to make humans multiplanetary. So their hope is to get all humans to Mars. Not all humans, to get a large number, a colony set up on Mars. So What's my current profession? I am a full-time content creator now. I'm a not retired. I'm still doing it. I'm still a professional photographer, but I no longer am taking the money of photography, aka weddings, and I'm dedicating to producing content full time now. So it is through YouTube and Instagram, and I do public speaking as well at schools and events and different panels and things like that. So I'm just trying to kind of, this is that awkward year of transition where you're like, I don't know if this is working, but we're going to give it a try. So 2017 has been the year of doing this and producing YouTube videos full time. If you guys haven't checked out my YouTube videos, please do. They take a lot of time. They take like 50 to 60 hours by the time you script and research and shoot. And then I'm trying to do like a bunch of animation and stuff in After Effects and then edit. It takes a lot of time. So check those out, please. Show a friend. I'm trying to answer those common questions about SpaceX and about space flight. Again, I'm trying to bring the things that made me so excited about space and the things that blow my mind and the things that make me so excited about the 21st century of space flight and this new age of rockets that can land themselves and be reused. I'm really trying to just get people excited about that. And I used to, with Instagram, for 3 years, I was producing content on Instagram. I was producing fun, funny, and factual content on Instagram. But again, people on Instagram, they just, they get out their phone, they just slide through and they go, and they don't read, they're not going to pick up any new information. So this is, my way of, YouTube's a lot better way to engage people directly, show them the exact reason, like, this is why I'm so excited, check this out, And so that's been the mission this year. So yeah, there we go. So let's see, tips for getting friends excited about space. Shahar S, excellent question. That's transitioning perfectly out of my mini rant here. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to produce videos that can help you get other people excited. So for me, what I tap into the things that first blew my mind. A lot of the facts during the Apollo era, a lot of things about the space shuttle. Just when you have those things that you're just like, did you know the water tower on the launch pad is there just to be sound suppression so that the sound of the rocket doesn't blow itself up? And people are like, wait, what? First off, there's a water tower? Yeah, there is. And wait, the sound is there to not blow the rocket up from its own sound? That kind of stuff. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Toby's in the house. Do I know anything about how quick they must move the Falcon return booster? They must move it quickly so Irma doesn't come destroy it. That's exactly right. I don't actually know how long their turnaround time is from vertical to getting it inside a hangar. I can ask around, but I honestly, they've done this a handful of times now. They've landed on land, 7 times now? So I would assume that it should be within a day, you'd think. So hopefully, I don't even know if they have a backup launch attempt. So I'm not sure if they can't launch today. I don't know if they'll be able to launch tomorrow, but Irma is quickly approaching. So I think they're going to be fine. Hey, Philip, I would love to come to Germany and visit you at your school and talk. Make it happen. Talk to a person. I have a page on my website, everydayastronaut.com, for public speaking. Click on it, show it to a teacher, principal, or administrator, and make it happen. We can do that. Falcon Heavy is going to be super sick. They hope they at least get to stage 2. I think they will. I have faith in Falcon Heavy that no matter what, it's going to get off the pad, and it's going to get all the way up till the booster separation at least. That's going to be, honestly, probably the trickiest part of the whole launch, is the whole new system of pushers and actuators. And it sounds like to me, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if the boosters don't actually have propulsive, they don't have separation, they can't jettison, right? They don't have little SRBs or anything to push the boosters out, because that's not very SpaceX. So they have hydraulic pushers. And I've heard rumors that they're actually going to be using the grid fins to use a little bit of atmospheric, obviously they're pretty high up. They're going to be at the Kármán line where there's almost no atmospheric, pressure. But they still will pop the grid fins open and try to turn them so it pulls it away. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. We're probably going to see here, hopefully by the end of the year. But yeah, we'll see. How do you see the upcoming Falcon Heavy launch this year? That's a great question. Obviously, SpaceX should hopefully live stream it unless they're genuinely that nervous about it, which I don't think they will. Even when they are nervous about things, they still live stream it. That's just the kind of company they are. They're very open. For a rocket company, at least, they're very, very, very open. Now, otherwise, you can go down to Florida and probably set up some kind of camper because it might be a little bit of time. John Ellis, howdy. They do have RCS to assist separation. That's true, Carl. They do have the little nitrogen thrusters that they will be able to aid. That's true. That's probably going to be more effect than having grid fins open. I don't know where I heard that. Now that I think about it, that makes a million times more sense than trying to use grid fins at all when you're above the atmosphere. So there we go. You're already working for the talk. Can I show my setup of this or of my talk? I need to update that page there, Philip. I will work on that page next week. I have a lot of updates because I've done a lot more talks, and that page is like a year old. So, to media, yes, I have tried to do a meetup. I've tried to do a meetup at one of the launches, and it didn't quite work out because when I go down to a launch, I'm with the media. I normally shoot for spaceflightnow.com, and the stuff just gets rescheduled constantly, and we had like weather delays last time and all this stuff. So I tried to do a meetup. And then, of course, when I scheduled the meetup, we literally ended up being out there like 2 hours after the meetup was supposed to happen. So it got canceled. So the SpaceX live stream, you know what? I always just go to youtube.com/SpaceX, and then you can find their live stream there as well. Yeah, I don't actually know the direct link. It's probably like, let's see here. There we go. That's the shortened link, if you were curious. youtube.b/9M6ZVI-F. You gotta know the capitals and stuff. What am I doing? I'm making a fool of myself. Get back in there. Alright. So, they use built-in RCS for ullage. This is true. There we go. SpaceX live stream starting in 27 minutes. And normally they start the live stream before that. In probably 7 minutes or so, we should actually start seeing the music. The SpaceX radio, which is whatchamacallit, starfish. Space shot starfish. Is that what it's called? Yeah, sorry. It's still morning, guys. My brain hasn't turned on yet. I'm trying to drink as much coffee out of my SpaceX mug as humanly possible. Let's see. What KSP mods do I recommend? So I'm not a huge modder, personally. But what I do, I can't live without KERS anymore. Kerbal Engineering Redux, which is your, basically shows like your delta V, your thrust to weight ratio. You can customize it. You need that stuff in Kerbal. I can't believe it's not built in, that you can't just see like a readout of your delta V and stuff, especially when you're building it. The other thing that I can't live without now is somebody made a phenomenal mod called Kerbal Full Reusability Mod or something, or reusability-me.com. I don't remember, but it's SpaceX parts. They make grid fins. They make awesome landing legs that look and act just like SpaceX's. They're amazing. So that's my favorite. There's a new SpaceX mod. No, I have not tried that. Do I have any ties with SpaceX workers or inside sources? Yeah. I spoke at SpaceX in February. I have a lot of good friends that work at SpaceX. So I don't have any like inside sources, but I have a lot of friends that work at SpaceX. We'll just leave it at that. Let's see. It's called Kerbal Reusability Expansion. Thank you, the cough. You're darn right I'm going to watch IAC. I was at IAC last year in Guadalajara, but I unfortunately cannot make it out to Australia this year. Just not going to happen. Those flights are crazy expensive. So, yeah. Monster or Rockstar energy drinks? Neither. I'm a coffee guy. Give me that coffee. I remind you of Will Wheaton. I don't even remember who Will Wheaton is, but I will wholeheartedly agree with that. I do. Hey, and Marcus House, you bring up a great point. I've seen people say trajectories is necessary because that will help you figure out your reentry points, right? Because if so, I could use that a lot, actually. So Did I study engineering? I studied, let's see, how do you word this? Nothing. I studied nothing. Actually, you guys want to hear a funny story? So, I ended up getting a 2-year associate's degree in nothing after like 5 years of dropping out of college and failing twice, by the way. I was one of those scatterbrains. By the way, I'm 32 years old, so this is years past. I just didn't care about college at all. But what did happen is I had one more class to take, and it was anatomy. And I love anatomy. For some reason, like anatomy and me normally get along like this. And I was trying really hard to take this anatomy class. I'm like, oh, this would be no problem. I love anatomy. I'm gonna absolutely win this class. And next thing you know, I'm doing terribly. And I walk into the final with like a D. And the whole semester, I'm like, why is everyone so good at anatomy? I don't get any of this. She's just flying through this book like, okay, chapter 1, done. Chapter 2, done. I'm like, slow down. I can't read and I can't do any of this. And I was feeling really bad. So I go into the final like, I have to pass this final, otherwise I will fail. I walk out of that final going, I failed. There's no way. This is my last class. So I walk down to the administration office and I say, look, I just took my last class. What do I have to do to get my diploma or whatever? And she goes, well, let's look at your transcript here. And she goes, oh, you still need to take like a science class. I go, no, I just took anatomy. She goes, no, you took the nursing anatomy final. So like the last class that all nurses take out of that program. Like, she's like, how did you get in that program? How did I get in that program? What are you talking about? How did I end up signing up for the final class ever? And yeah, so at least I found out if you guys need a certified nurse, I'm sort of not one at all, but I took the final, so there we go. Francisco asking about Red Dragon. Here's what we do. I'm not upset about Red Dragon being canceled, personally. This is because we don't want them focusing on technology that won't help them later on. This is the beauty of a small private space companies. They can be fluid with their designs. They can make changes. That's why the Falcon 9 has basically never launched the same rocket. Every time they launch, they tweak something a little bit. That's the beauty of SpaceX, is they're able to say, look, we love Red Dragon. It's really cool. They were using it as like a staple bed to take their Dragon capsule that they've had so many years with and basically start practicing it, practice landing in the same way they've been able to practice the Falcon 9 landing. It makes sense. Strap some rockets on it. Let's practice landing so we can do this well on Mars. But eventually they go, you know what? We're not going to land on Mars using a Dragon or using a heat shield, a blunt heat shield reentry and Super Dracos. That's terribly inefficient. You can't scale that up. There's not enough surface area to slow yourself down. You'll have to spend a ton of fuel to slow down and make a soft landing on Mars. So they say, well, we're going to obviously have to do a semi-lifting body of some sort, like we saw at IAC, with the BFS. But it's for the better that they're not focusing all this time and money and engineering resources on trying to make the Dragon propulsively land when there's no demand for it. NASA had some concerns, with the heat shield. This is going to be my next video, by the way. This is literally what I'm scripting right now. If you guys want to help me script, those in my Discord channel, we're currently talking about it right now. This is my upcoming video. So if you want to be a member and be part of this conversation, patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Patreon members are in the Discord channel. And we're currently having this discussion, but it's important because, yes, it's sad because we got kind of teased how, we kind of got teased with how cool the Dragon propulsive landing looked. They had hover tests, their launch abort, it's all built in. We know how cool it is. We know it's freaking awesome. But at the same time, it's okay that they decided to scrap Red Dragon because all that would be kind of like a genital measuring contest at some point to be like, we're the first one on Mars with a spacecraft. Yes, that's cool, but that doesn't help at all when it comes to their actual plan of like ITS. Now, ITS, it makes a lot more sense. They're going to be probably doing a subscale version of BFS BFR, and BFS BFR is Big Falcon Rocket and Big Falcon Ship, or replace the Falcon with another F word. And that's, by the way, that's what I've exclusively heard it be called internally is BFS and BFR. So we will probably have a subscale version of that, and that will probably become their new workhorse. The beauty is it will be fully recoverable, even at small scale, and then they'll be able to tweak that rapidly, just like they were able to tweak the Falcon 9. So the Falcon 9, you look at what it started off at and how much it's matured till Block 5. Block 5 is nothing like the first Falcon 9. They share almost nothing in common, like at all. The fuselage it's significantly taller. Here we go. We have SpaceX radio running. Let me know if you guys can hear that in the background. I will kind of turn the music up a little bit for you guys. And I'm going to see if... Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm going to do this. No, I don't need headphones yet. So, can you guys kind of hear SpaceX radio in the background? Yeah. All right, so... SpaceX Radio, their webcast is live. That means we'll probably start seeing them stream in 10 minutes with a host, although the host will probably just say good morning and then show the rocket out on the pad. So there we go. So back to oh, well, thank you. All right, so I don't remember what we were just talking about, but oh, John Ellis, you should automatically be invited via a Patreon bot or like a Discord bot thing. If you log into Discord, you should actually see that you're already in our channel. If not, John, remind me, send me a little email or something, and I will confirm and try to figure that out for you. I actually, to be perfectly honest, Discord makes no sense to me at all. I swear, it's one of those things like, I don't know if you have one of those things like a mental block. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, yeah, that being said, find me, talk, let's make it happen because you deserve that as a Patreon member. So, Test Shot Starfish, there we go. I could not think of it this morning. Where did I get this mug? SpaceX.com. It's their web store. Exactly, the cough. So apparently, our friend Pranshinu Jindal is not familiar with my persona in life, which is the Everyday Astronaut is my ongoing project. I have a old Russian high altitude flight suit. This big stinky thing that I have taken literally around the world with me to 4 continents, most states of the United States, and it's kind of been the bane of my existence. That's where I get a lot of the content for my photos and videos. Yeah, that's what I have done since I bought it. We're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of me buying it. I should do something cool. Yeah, so there you go. That's what the helmet is. It's an old Russian, like MK44 OTV-MTB22. I have no idea, but there you go. That's where that comes from. That's why that's there. That's why my shirt has that helmet on it. Again, if you're not familiar, I'd say the best rundown would be on Instagram, Everyday Astronaut. You can get a pretty good sense of, you know, what I'm talking about here. So it's been this, just taking it around the world, doing weird stuff with it. That's been the spacesuit. So there you go. Yes, Discord confuses the crap out of me as well. Good. You're also a Patreon and not on my... Nicholas, all right, well, you guys, we got to figure that out. Hit me up right away as soon as you can. Let's figure this out afterwards. I want to make sure. You can get these shirts at everydayastronaut.com/shop, or just go to Everyday Astronaut, click around, you'll find it. Where did I got the suit? Oh, good, LOX is pumping. That's great news. That means they're going for the front of their venting apparent. Okay, that means they're definitely going for the top of their window here. So here we go. That's awesome. So I ended up getting that spacesuit on an auction website called rrauction.com. They had like 800 listings for spaceflight things, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put a bid down on things that hadn't been bid on. So I actually got 2 things. I got that helmet, and then see right above it this frame right here. These are 2 pieces of film flown on 2 different Gemini missions, and I bought both of those at the same time. So there we go. Hey, Brian! What's stopping? First off, thank you, Brian. Everyone give Brian a clap. Thank you so much for the super chat here. What's stopping NASA from asking for donations to fix their budget issues? When you buy stuff in their stores, do they get a cut? You know, Brian, this is a great question, and I've actually asked around and haven't you can technically, what was it? You can technically donate to, someone had a way that you can kind of do that, but the long story was you're better off to donate to like smaller. Does anybody have a good answer? Because I have tried to answer this, to be honest, and I haven't quite found a good answer. But I think that the big part is it's just sticky because it's government. That'd be like, donating money to the FBI to go catch a bad guy or something better because they're out of money or something, We're like, hey, I'm gonna donate money to for more ammo for war. It's sort of like that. How do you set up a system like that and not have it get corrupt and not have it, just be bad in general? So I think that's kind of the main thing. So thank you, Sylvan. I think you can donate to the things like the museums. I think that's the only way you can really donate. And, in a way, if the museums are doing well, then the budgets can do well. I'm getting some sun in my eyes. So I think, that's kind of the thing. If these museums are top notch and people are excited in going to them, that does stir up some excitement and make, Congress people want to help fund NASA. It's sort of an indirect, not very efficient way. So, yeah, if NASA keeps using SpaceX, that'll keep their budget down. Sounds good. I will be doing, if I do a Falcon Heavy webcast from this chair, I'm doing it wrong. I will tell you that. I will be down at Falcon Heavy almost no matter what. Literally, unless like something, I don't know what it would be, but it would take a lot for me to not be down there. So we'll see. I'm really excited for that. So you can donate to the Planetary Society. That's a great, that should have been my first answer. Yeah, Planetary Society. They literally, their job is to they do a lot of stuff to reach out to Congress. They do kind of a lot of lobbying almost for space and space exploration and space flight. So they are our friends. If you guys aren't familiar with Planetary Society, there we go. SpaceX webcast is live.
3, 2, 1, 0.
I'm gonna finish my rant about Planetary Society. That its head right now, the CEO is Bill Nye. Donate to them, guys. Check them out. Planetary Society is awesome. They are definitely our friends, and they're definitely friends of SpaceX. They're definitely friends of NASA. They're a great group to be a part of. So, all right, let's listen in.
You are looking at a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket on SpaceX launch pad 39A, preparing for liftoff in just about 10 minutes from now at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Universal Coordinated
Pretty morning.
Time. Welcome to the live webcast of the U.S. Air Force Orbital Test Vehicle 5 mission. I'm Michael Hammersley, a materials engineer in our electronics group, and today SpaceX is launching the U.S. Air Force's X-37B orbital test vehicle from historic launch pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This will be the 5th launch of the X-37B and its first on a Falcon 9. The orbital test vehicle is an experimental program for a reliable, reusable, unmanned space test platform for the U.S. Air Force. The primary objectives of the orbital test vehicle are twofold: to demonstrate reusable spacecraft technologies for America's future in space, and to operate experiments which can be returned to and then examined on Earth. For today's mission, we will also be attempting to land and recover the first stage. We'll continue to cover this secondary objective once primary mission coverage has concluded. The first stage will be landing back at landing zone 1.
So we've already talked about some of this. So I'm gonna answer. Two people pointed out the spire on top of the rocket. That's not a spire. That's the lightning rod, the lightning diversion tower or whatever it's called, on top of the fixed service structure directly behind the rocket. So that's about 30, 40, 50 feet away from the rocket. It's to divert lightning from striking the rocket. Since Florida is the lightning capital of the world, this is there to be able to make sure that if lightning strikes in the area, it hits that lightning tower first and not the rocket. They also added a bunch of new wires coming off it, so it's beefed up quite a bit. And also, somebody else asked, why don't they put whatever's kind of inside the X-37B inside the fairing and just have it be done? Truth be told, we don't know what the X-37B is doing up there.
39A is the same launch pad that launched Saturn V.
They're doing the typical talking about
SpaceX
stuff
released the
like
pad 2
39A.
years ago and started launching from that pad at the beginning of this year. We've constructed a massive hangar nearby that can house both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, which of course has 3 first-stage boosters instead of just the 1. The vehicle was rolled out of the hangar and raised to vertical on the launch pad about 7 hours ago. Falcon 9 is a 2-stage launch vehicle. It comprises a high-strength aluminum first stage as well as a high-strength aluminum second stage, and they are joined by a composite interstage. The X-37B payload is housed in the fairing sitting atop the second stage.
Okay, all stuff we know. Oh.
And here you can see some footage.
Ooh, some rollout footage
of the X-37B inside the fairing after it was encapsulated as it's being moved to mate to the top.
So
of the
for
second
those of you that
stage.
don't know, we see the X-37B. You can look up pictures of it all the time. It lands publicly. I mean, not publicly. It lands at Kennedy Space Center on the old shuttle runway. But it's still a very public thing. You can't really hide that. So we know what it looks like.
We're also attempting a land landing today, 14 kilometers away from the launch site.
14 kilometers away, so that's about 8 miles. I think I said 6 miles earlier, but yeah, about 8 miles. That makes sense.
Pad, 100 yards across. It's the length of a football field. The first successful landing at that pad was nearly 2 years ago when we delivered.
All right, I'm going to answer this question because they're just kind of going through the normal stuff there. Does the Falcon Heavy have all 3 of its boosters land vertically? Absolutely. The only thing is, I think every mission profile will pretty much have the 2 side boosters landing back at land at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base. Now, notice I said that and not Kennedy Space Center. They are technically separated by a very small causeway. So Cape Canaveral Air Force Base is just slightly south of Kennedy Space Center. SpaceX has a pad at each. SpaceX has LC-40, which is at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base. And they also have pad 39A, which is at Kennedy Space Center. And then LZ-1 is a little bit further south yet, down in Cape Canaveral Air Force Base. And the 2 side boosters of the Falcon Heavy will land on there at LZ-1, or Landing Zone 1. And then the center core, since it burns a little bit longer, I don't know if there'd be any mission profile where it would burn and then have enough to boost back and turn around and come back and land on land as well, like they showed in their old animations. But we know for sure that the center core will end up landing down on their drone ship. So it might be a long ways away too. There's a good chance that could end up being like 1,000 miles out or 1,600 kilometers out. We'll see. How many days does it take for them to... That's absolutely true. It's very inefficient if they would boost back the center core and try to land it on land. But if it's a teeny tiny payload, it wouldn't make any sense because most likely there's not going to be any crossover. You know, I doubt that there's a payload where they could land all 3 on terra firma on land, as opposed to doing, having the center core of just a Falcon 9 land out on the drone ship. I'm guessing there's almost no overlap there. Or that there is overlap there, I mean. So they might as well just do a standard Falcon 9 and have it land on the drone ship as opposed to a Falcon Heavy. I don't know the numbers. Someone can crunch those for us. We'll see. Let's see. Yeah, you only... Philip brought up a great point. You literally can't fathom how big this rocket is until you are close to it. Hey, I do want to see this. Reliable. Spaceplane, there it is. Spaceplane. Spaceship. It's cool. Guys, this thing
The X-37B
really cool.
Orbital Test Vehicle, or OTV, is the nation's first unmanned spaceplane. Managed by the U.S. Air Force Rapid Capabilities Office, the Boeing-built X-37B is a highly flexible testbed platform for a variety of on-orbit demonstrations. This reusable system allows hosted experiments to be returned, inspected, modified, and flown again at dramatically reduced cost.
The X-37B testbed platform is unique because we can tailor our missions to specific user needs and return experiments back for post-flight inspection.
The X-37B is designed to fly and test new technologies, reduce technical risk early in product design, and validate system performance. It has completed 4 successful flights, accumulating over 2,000 days of on-orbit demonstrations. The vehicle provides experiments with power, data, commanding, thermal, and attitude control. The X-37B has repeatedly achieved rapid experiment integration timelines, proving itself to be a responsive test platform.
Leveraging the existing X-37B infrastructure and reusing the platform allows users to focus their investment on the
It's not
experiment.
the real Elon Musk.
developing
He's
new
from
technologies.
Portugal.
The Air Force Research Laboratory Hall Effect Thruster experiment highlights the value of this reusable spaceplane. This experiment, flown on OTV-4, validated performance enhancements that could only be tested in a space environment. Utilizing the X-37B enabled this complex experiment to be flown in less than 24 months.
I got nervous
OTV-5
that we were
continues
missing
to
the
advance
launch.
the performance and flexibility of the X-37B as a space technology demonstrator. Today's launch of OTV-5 is the first flight of an X-37B on a SpaceX Falcon 9. The ability to launch the X-37B on multiple platforms will provide responsive and assured access to space. Following the OTV-4 landing in Florida, the program is consolidating launch, recovery, refurbishment, and experiment integration in the repurposed orbiter processing facility. This consolidation reduces processing time and positions the program to be even more responsive.
The reliability, reusability, and responsiveness of the X-37B will fundamentally change how we perform future space missions.
The X-37B, flying tomorrow's technologies today.
Today. I knew that's coming. Very cool. Good job, Boeing. That was cool. All right. Well, we're just going to kind of...
successfully land today. This will be SpaceX's 16th recovered stage. The next
crazy.
mission using a flight-proven booster will be the EchoStar 105 SES-11 mission, scheduled to launch
Brand
no
new
earlier
booster.
than October. The booster for that mission originally flew the CRS-10 mission, which delivered supplies to the International Space Station in February of this year. Reliability is one of the most important, reusability, is one of the most important steps in bringing down launch costs and improving access to space in furtherance of SpaceX's ultimate mission of getting to Mars. Now, as with all our missions, landing the booster continues to be a secondary objective.
So this is a question that comes up often. What is leaking? That is them venting off oxygen. So they pressurize these tanks, and this is super cooled propellant. So it's literally right at the point just above turning into a solid, and literally actually had issues with it turning into a solid about exactly a year ago. Hey there, Alexander. Thank you. NASA authorized to receive but not solicit donation. There we go. Thank you, Alexander, everyone. Big round of applause to Alexander. Thank you. So they... Oh, I didn't realize that they were actually authorized to receive but not solicit donations. That's awesome. Okay, we're going to listen to this terminal account too.
Stromberg lure has ended.
But back
Stromberg's
to...
at
So the
83
LOX... This is just LOX venting off. And actually when it hits the atmosphere, you see the condensation around that. So that's all that is. That's totally normal. And then even when the...
motion nominal.
Even when the Dragon is sitting there on the pad, even after they close it off like this, so you can see it venting out here on the second stage there. Even when they close it off, it's still so cold that air that comes in contact ends up like chilling. It's crazy. This thing is like, if you went up and touched it, your hand would probably freeze. It's crazy. So
Stage 2 lock secured. Falcon 9 is on internal power.
It's not Elon, everybody, but hello, our friend from Portugal. So I want to bring up real quick in the last minute.
Vehicles in self-align.
The big thing about the X-37B is we don't exactly
Close
know
out this target.
what it's doing up there, and it obviously is things that need to spend either a lot of time in space
Stage 2
or be tested in space and validated in space. Some of this could even be like weaponry. Since this is a military payload, they could be shooting lasers out of this thing to take down, enemy satellites or something. We don't really know, to be honest. And that's why it needs to be in the test bed of the X-37B. So they have a payload fairing. And so they probably need to recover it and do tests and things. So it's different than just throwing up like a laser and saying, here, let's test this.
Gas cloud sets. It's
The
complete.
things that they're doing on this vehicle, are things that they need to be returned. Hang on, just listening to the
Falcon 9 is in
Chatter.
startup.
Falcon 9's in startup. Everything's looking good, guys. They're going for it.
Stage 1 and Stage 2.
Beautiful. Look at that.
LDS
People were
go for
nervous.
launch.
This is a live launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
You're right, Miss MJR Doctor. Weapons in space are banned, but I wonder...
Stage 1 pressing 2 liftoff pressures.
I don't know about
Falcon 9.
sabotaging other
15
people's
seconds,
stuff.
stand by
Maybe
for
just goes
terminal
around and
count.
pokes a hole in the hydrazine tanks of other satellites.
9, 8,
Here we go.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh yeah! Liftoff. They did it, guys. They made it off the pad before the hurricane came. This is excellent. Gosh, they're getting so good at this now. We don't like see scrubs from Marley anymore. This is amazing.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Oh, I love the shots out of Kennedy Space Center. They get so many chances to shoot these things because these things happen all the time that their camera people are just phenomenal at tracking. Even through the cloud, they got that. So we get really good shots here from Kennedy Space Center. Look at that. It's already going almost 1,000 kilometers an hour. So we're coming up on the speed of sound here pretty soon already. But only a minute after takeoff.
We've had successful liftoff of the Falcon 9. Look closely, we're about to move through supersonic. You may actually see the vapor cone that forms from the shockwave if we're lucky.
Yep, so as it goes through max Q, maximum
Otherwise, we're
aerodynamic
coming
pressure,
up shortly on max
you'll see this
Q,
big
which is
vapor
maximum
cone come off
aerodynamic pressure, the point
the
at
top
which
of it.
Falcon 9 is pushing hardest against the atmosphere.
And even though the atmosphere is getting thinner, the vehicle is going faster. So there's this weird threshold where, you know, it hits the most, basically, it hits the most resistance it'll ever see. I actually don't have a preset to make this thing full screen.
And there you heard the MVAC engine chill, which prepares the second stage engine for ignition.
Here
Main
we go.
engine cutoff is coming up in about
doing
40
good.
seconds from now.
So at about 2 minutes
Shortly
and
followed by
30
both
seconds or so,
stage separation and then second engine start.
we will see
We'll
the
be
stage
concluding
separation.
coverage of the primary mission at that point.
Yes, this is classified. We don't actually know exactly where it's going and what it's doing.
Second stage call-outs will be performed on LV.
Here we go. Here comes
Watch for main engine cutoff.
main engine cutoff. They're
coming
going
up
to
shortly.
turn off all 9 Merlin engines. There we go. Main engine cutoff. And then this is looking up at the second stage. There goes the second stage. So we're looking from the top of the inside of the fairing, the inner stage. And then that was the second stage getting pushed off into space. And now that second stage will relight, and that second stage will end up continuing off into
Notice
orbit.
The vehicle is currently, or the first
So
stage
you can
is
actually
currently
see it back
doing
there,
a
that little
fast
tiny
maneuver
dot
and a
right
boost
there.
back burn. The
Is the
fast
second
flip is to get
stage. So
headed
we
back
will. That's the
towards
last
landing
bit
zone
we'll
1 as
see
quickly as possible.
of the second
And
stage.
the boost back burn, or to get it in the right orientation to head back, and the boost back burn actually pushes it back towards landing zone 1.
So yeah, so now it's slowing down. So it was going up and sideways. Now it turned around. The first
We've got
stage
3
this
engines
is.
burning
It
at the
turned
moment,
around and
but
is
we're
actually
in
going to
the
go back
outer
towards land,
reaches
and that's what this boost
the
back burn
atmosphere,
is. You
so
can see its
can't actually
velocity
see
is
any visible flames, but you'll
zeroing
notice
out, but it won't quite zero out because it's
indications
still
that the
going up
engines
pretty
are on
fast. So you
just
won't
above
actually
the
see it
first
go down to
stage there in
zero.
this shot.
So here we go. So it's still coasting upward actually,
Stage 1
and then it will
prevent
fall back
shut
down.
The boost back burn has now ended. Notice that the vehicle is still climbing.
Aluminum grid fins, not
Now
the
you
new
saw the grid
titanium
fins
ones.
just opened up. These grid fins are recently moved to being made out of titanium.
Yeah,
It's a
these are
much
my
higher
this
temperature material than aluminum, and that's better able to stand the high temperatures of re-entry.
Wait, did they just say? Yeah, these are the aluminum ones still, right? Yeah, these missions
You'll
where we get to
also
see the
notice
first
the,
stage all the way through are
brief
my favorite
spurts
ones.
of what appear to be white smoke. Those are our nitrogen thrusters. And those control the orientation of the vehicle when the grid fins aren't able to, because there's no atmosphere. Grid fins, of course, requiring atmosphere to operate.
They did say these were titanium? They don't look like it. It looks like the old design. I didn't think that
First stage, continuing its parabolic arc heading towards landing zone 1, starting to descend back towards Earth. We're still about a minute and a half or so away from the re-entry burn, which is going to slow the vehicle down
I wonder if we're going to see Irma.
to only a couple times the speed of sound before re-entering the atmosphere.
I'm going to call this now. I still don't think those are titanium grid fins. I think those are still aluminum.
Re-entry burn coming up in about 1 minute.
It's not the same design. The titanium ones look significantly different. They actually kind of
As you can
curve
see,
on the
the
inside
speed
grids, and there
the
aren't those
first
vertical
stage is still rapidly
things going
increasing.
through.
The re-entry burn is going to slow that back down in order to keep those aerodynamic forces upon re-entry at a minimum.
So now, as the
Those
stage
cold gas
re-enters,
thrusters still adjusting the
you can see the altitude
of
here.
the first stage.
You can see the altitude is starting to hit the atmosphere. So they're going to light up 3 of those engines again and slow the vehicle down so the atmosphere doesn't rip the stage apart.
Entry startup.
This is a brand new first stage. There's the re-entry burn.
This will last for another 15 seconds or so, rapidly decreasing the entering velocity.
Entry burn shut down.
Here we go, steering itself towards
Successful
LZ1.
conclusion of the re-entry burn. You can notice that's ground underneath Falcon 9.
Look
now,
at how angled it
heading
is. This
toward
thing's
landing
coming
zone
in.
1.
Wow.
We're about to slow back down through the speed of sound.
How is it going to... It looks like it's
You notice
way
those
over the ocean
vibrations as
still.
That is coming up.
Stage 1 ATS head stage.
Now notice it's slowing down from the atmosphere.
Stage 1 is transonic.
Coming up in just a few seconds now, we're going to begin the landing burn. That will slow the vehicle down for a gentle touchdown.
Landing burn startup.
Why is the altitude decreasing? This is the landing portion. They are landing this thing.
This is a single engine burn, which allows for more control. And there you can see it on the screen on your right there, descending through the clouds, headed towards
This is
the
beautiful.
concrete pad.
Beautiful. There's the sonic boom, the double sonic boom.
Landing leg deployed.
And... touchdown. Gosh, they make that look so easy.
Falcon has successfully landed. Landing operator. Resumed procedure 11.100 section 3.
Oh, they just
And
make that look
there
so
we had it.
easy.
You can see the landing legs deployed. That's Falcon 9 standing proud at landing zone 1. At
That's
that point,
awesome.
Or at this point, with the successful landing of the first stage,
They're gonna
we'll
cut the
be
broadcast
ending
now already.
today's webcast. It was a very smooth countdown. Everything proceeded nominally.
I love
The weather was looking potentially
That
a bit
was
tricky
like-
with those clouds, but ended up being a go. Smooth first stage ascent, smooth second stage separation and start,
I love it.
and then that beautiful landing that you just saw.
I love it.
So we'd like to thank the Air Force. For
All right.
participation and
Well, they're
support,
getting into their thank yous.
also providing-
That does it for SpaceX, but I'm going to stick around and answer some questions. So,
Join us.
first off, thank you guys for tuning in. This is amazing. This is the best turnout we've had. Tell your friends next time so you guys can come and ask questions as well. I'm again, insanely, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters. Those people that are Patreon supporters are in my Discord channel. They help me script my videos. They give me lots of good ideas. Huge shout out to those people. Thank you, Patreon. You can become a Patreon supporter by going to patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in today. I'm going to answer some questions. So first off, someone asked, didn't they do this last month? that's something that people have a hard time grasping, is that these launches are happening at insane frequencies. They're happening almost every 2 weeks at this point, and that's SpaceX's goal, is to be able to launch every 2 weeks. These are different payloads, though. So, yes, you see the first stage go up, turn around, and come back down. That's the cool part. That's becoming routine and normal. This, whatever's up in the payload, whatever ends up staying in space, that's different each time. We might see a Dragon capsule. That's SpaceX's own spacecraft that goes to the International Space Station. We see that launch about 3 to 4 times a year. That's what we saw. So those are those CRS missions. The most recent one was CRS. Let's see, what was the most recent? CRS 12. I was at it. I should have known. Yeah, CRS 12 or 13. I don't remember already. But those are those Dragon missions. The other ones have a big fairing, a payload fairing, and those are normal satellites. Those are satellites for paying customers. They also are satellites for the U.S. government, or in this case, they were a secret payload for a military space plane. So, but the first stage, they're trying to land almost every single first stage these days, which is amazing. So, yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. The takeoff and reentry burn was very visible from Florida. That's so cool, John. That's so freaking awesome. You'd like to launch your own channel, rehost launches for Hungarian people in Hungarian. Have any suggestions about what should you start? Make sure you have streaming software and stuff. It took me a long time to get something that runs well. I think I finally have a solution that runs fairly smoothly, and it's OBS. I was using some software called Game Show, which I no longer am ever going to use again, to be honest. This OBS software is very stable on my computer, which is hilarious because the funniest thing is everyone says OBS is hilariously unstable. It's been amazing for me so far. So fingers crossed, everybody. I'm running that, and then I'm running a second computer for the actual stream, so that my main computer doesn't have to process any of that. And then that goes into a Blackmagic mini recorder. Again, thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping me be able to afford stuff like that and microphones and things like that. So, Game Show did continue to crash again, Toby. I can't even get it to open anymore. So Game Show is gone. Game Show is bye-bye. PSLV fairing didn't open. Don't say that. I hope that fairing opened. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all your guys' stuff. Earth has a launch window in the spring to Mars. Do you think SpaceX will launch? No, SpaceX does not have any plans to launch anything to Mars. Right now, that is, guys. They had the plans for their Red Dragon mission, which was going to hopefully launch 2018. That was going to be a Dragon capsule going on top of a Falcon Heavy, which has yet to fly, and they were going to send that to Mars. It was going to be the biggest payload to Mars by about almost tenfold. This is huge. This is massive. This is a big, big, big deal. And they are not going to be doing that launch window. They are not going to be attempting a launch, unfortunately, with Red Dragon. That got canceled. There's good reason for it. That's going to be my next video. But you know what, guys? I need to fill up on coffee, so I'm going to do that real quick. My coffee machine is the slowest thing in the world. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to run a little stream here quick. Some of you might see an ad for a second. I'll be right back in literally a minute. I'm going to answer as many questions as I can. And yeah, I'll be right back, guys. Stay with me. I'll be back in about 1 minute.
I think we all dreamt about going to space when we were kids. But when the space shuttle program ended in 2011, I discovered a void in my life. That emptiness led to a newfound obsession with space. A few years later, I wound up bidding on a Russian spacesuit as a joke. When the box arrived at my doorstep, my friends asked, "What are you going to do with a spacesuit?" The answer? What can't I do with a spacesuit? That's how Everyday Astronaut was born. Since then, the suit hasn't left my side. It's even gone around the world with me. From remote villages in Myanmar,
Rockets and spaceships.
to beautiful fields in Norway.
I'm fighting a cow to get a picture right now.
Here I am on vacation in the beautiful Norway with my beautiful boyfriend.
I even proposed to my wife in the suit at Machu Picchu in Peru. days I work with leaders in the space industry to create fun and inspirational content. I've even been invited to different NASA facilities across the country, all for the sake of sharing my excitement with the world.
Hey there, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but NASA is doing some incredible...
This is church for us space nerds. This is where Gene Kranz. And I'm back. Howdy, everybody. All right, so... Hang on. Let's see if... All right, so let's go ahead, guys. Hit me up with some good questions. I want to answer the best questions you have. So I'm back. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is amazing. I'm kind of floored right now. I can't believe this many people are hanging out. I love the questions we've been getting. So yeah, that's fantastic. You did not have a 4-minute unskippable ad because of me. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here right now. I'm going to answer, somebody said SLS or Falcon Heavy. These are two very different vehicles. Very different vehicles. And I want to say, guys, I'm going to say this. This is going to be an unpopular opinion, especially amongst this crowd. I want to see SLS fly. Because and it's a fallacy. I will admit 100% it is a fallacy for me to say I want to see it fly. Based on this logic. My logic is we're so darn close. We are so close. The engineering has been done. A good amount of manufacturing has been done. It would just be a shame to not see it fly at this point. That being said, I don't think we should launch and continue to support SLS later on once it launches. Again, this is a fallacy. You're seeing my human side. Emotionally, I want to see it fly. I want to see it fly once. It's going to be insane. 4 SSMEs. So we have 4 space shuttle main engines instead of 3. So that's cool, right? Plus 2 solid rocket boosters that are taller and more powerful than the SRBs on the space shuttle. How do I not? This is the biggest rocket to ever fly, ever. The most powerful rocket ever. It'll be more powerful than the Saturn V. Has more capability than Saturn V. Why wouldn't I want to watch that thing fly? I mean, yes, it's expensive, and yes, our funds could be much, much better off pointed at some private industry things, such as Falcon Heavy, such as New Glenn. But I still want to see the thing fly. We're so close. We're so close. Let's not forget, NASA and SpaceX are not competitors. People often try to pit them to, NASA versus SpaceX. That's not true. SpaceX and Blue Origin and ULA, those are competitors. They do compete. NASA is on top of that. They're another tier above. Yes, currently as we transition into the new space era, they are still designing rockets currently. I personally am in the opinion, I don't think they should ever be designing and building rockets. And that's not to say that their engineers are not capable of it. NASA obviously has and does still have some of the best engineers in the entire world, period. But they're going to be moving from NASA into private companies and private sectors as the funds kind of move and filter around. I don't think we're going to be seeing NASA design and build a rocket because of the politics involved. So what happens, unfortunately, with NASA, this is not NASA's fault. This is the fault of bureaucracy, unfortunately. And what happens is Congress says, hey, you guys have space shuttles around, right? Why don't we reuse that hardware? Makes sense to us. And then they have to design a whole rocket around hardware that exists that wasn't meant to be on a rocket ever again, really. The space shuttle main engines, yes, they're incredible. The RS-25s are still some of the most efficient and best engines ever built, period. But, if they just started with a clean slate on this rocket, I think we would have been better off. That being said, I have to say that if they just simply said, hey, here's our payload, instead of saying, here's our rocket, let's put a payload on top of it like they're kind of currently doing, it works best when NASA says, here's our payload, here's our destination, now you guys build a rocket. And that's what they're doing with the Commercial Crew Program. So that's what they're doing when they say, hey, we have this space station, we need to send people and cargo up there. Who wants to do it? And then people submit bids. It ends up being extremely cost effective. It ends up increasing competition and making it so that it ends up being the best situation for absolutely everybody, because they get the best amount of money they get the best performance per dollar, basically. The cost comes down insanely cheap. And then these startups like SpaceX, who was at one point a teeny little rocket company, building these little baby Falcon 1s out on Kwajalein Islands, and launching into this monster 15,000 person company. So yeah, this is why NASA needs to be the person that says that they need to do the things that don't have a actual direct future, or that don't make a profit. So that's the thing is, a rocket can make a profit. It can be the UPS, it can be the FedEx, it can deliver something to space. But then NASA needs to be doing the things like advanced propulsion, things that might not work out, that are high risk and extremely technical, things that a company's not going to sit there and spend $4 billion on an advanced electric propulsion system. And also, no one's going to just privately fund, a $4 billion probe to Jupiter. There's no real money. There's no real, that's for human exploration. That's for human advancement. So that's what NASA needs to be doing. And things like NERVA, yes. NERVA was, a nuclear powered engine that's still extremely efficient. And something like that is exactly what NASA should be working on. They should also be working on advanced ion and electric propulsions and things like that, solar sails. They should also be building the probes to go to Jupiter, Venus, and all these different things. They should be working on maybe the ISRU, the in situ resource utilization, to make fuel on the moon out of water and fuel on Mars out of the trapped water. NASA doing research and development, exactly like Toby says. That's right. And then they say, here's what we have. Now, who wants to launch it? And then you get ULA, you get Blue Origin, you get SpaceX bidding on those launches. And that's the way it's probably going to be in the next, but within 5 to 10 years. I think SLS is going to be the last rocket that NASA ever builds. That being said, I want to see it fly. That being said, it has still more capability than Falcon Heavy. So now a question, KSP or Orbiter? KSP all day long. I checked out Orbiter. Didn't do it for me. I don't know. I like the Kerbalness is what makes Kerbal. The fact that you build stuff and it blows up. That's the great thing about Kerbal. Marcus, question. Any good books I would recommend? Really love the Fear Saga. So I have to say I'm not a science fiction guy. I don't really read. I like The Martian is as close to science fiction as I get, but even that is very well rooted in hard science. So I love it. So I had to say I'm not a big science fiction fan. Books though, like Buzz Aldrin's Mission to Mars, amazing book. Again, The Martian, which I'm sure we've all read or watched. Neil deGrasse Tyson's books are amazing. Those are the ones that I like to watch or read over anything else. Orbiter is realistic. Some things are more important than realism, though. All right. What else you guys got for me? Ooh, a Brian Cox presentation on the BBC about the 21st century space race. I like that. How much have we invested into SLS so far? I think it's about $15 billion. I'm not positive. When I do, I will be doing a NASA versus SpaceX, SLS versus Falcon Heavy video by the end of the year. So again, those of you that are Patreon supporters, we're going to be scripting that here in the near future, tossing back ideas, looking for numbers like that, like exactly how much. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see though. Somebody also, we occasionally see people talk about the Falcon Heavy. The cough. I believe it is 15 billion. Does anybody have numbers to? Yes. That's why SLS is crazy expensive. Yeah. Kevin, we have seen ground tracking cameras. If you want to see a launch where they track the camera from the ground, or track the stage from the ground the entire time, watch, what was that? It was their first government payload, the first military payload that SpaceX ever launched. I'm blanking on what it was called, though, right now. It was amazing. We got to see the first stage fallback the entire time. It was incredible. So that was my favorite. Yeah. NROL 76. Thank you, Shahar. Exactly. So I do want to mention one more thing, too. People often compare Falcon Heavy to Russia's failed moon rocket, the N-1. The only similarity those two things have is they have an absurd number of engines, but don't let that scare you guys. People say this all the time, like, well, I know what's going to happen to Falcon Heavy. We watched what happened to the N-1. No, you don't know what's going to happen to the Falcon Heavy because of what happened to the N-1. So here's what happened. Here's what happened to the N1 rocket. They would only test about half of the NK-33s because it was cheaper than testing all of them that would go on the actual rocket. So I believe that rocket had, was it 32 or 40? I think it was 32 NK-33s on the first stage. Here's what they would do. They would only test half of them. They would light them up, make sure they work, and then they would stick them all together. The only time they'd actually be able to launch and light all of them, since they didn't have a place to do a static fire, they would literally commit to a launch and light all 32 engines at once and let the thing go. Well, this failed 4 times. N1 had 30 engines. There we go. So they couldn't actually test it sitting on the ground. And this is very different from the Falcon Heavy. The Falcon Heavy, first off, all 27 engines have not only been fired individually, they've also been fired in their core at McGregor. And they also share this lineage with all these Merlin engines that they've fired 1,000 times. The Merlin engine is, at this point, becoming a reliable... We know the failure of the Merlin engine. It's so far 0. We've had 0 Merlin failures in flight. We may have had one partial outage on the very first Falcon 9. I don't remember. But basically, it's incredible. The Merlin engine, they have data up the wazoo for the Merlin engine. Having 27 of them isn't that much scarier than having 9 on a Falcon 9. And as a matter of fact, it provides some engine out. So, yeah, exactly. Zoomer30 says it exactly right. The Soviets tested as they flew. Blowing things up was baked into the design. That's exactly right. They basically kerbled the crap out of it, as opposed to SpaceX is using an engine that's been used 1,000 times and is insanely reliable. And here's what they're going to do. They will have the Falcon Heavy out at Pad 39A, and they will light all 27 engines up, not quite at once, but it'll look almost like at once. They'll probably light them in some kind of sequence so the whole thing doesn't, bend and stress it out. But they will ignite somewhat separately, and then they're going to hold it down and make sure everything tests out okay. This will be the first time 27 engines will have been lit. There's going to be new vibrations, a lot of new things, a lot of things bending. They're going to make sure all their sensors line up, and they will be able to test it before it flies. That's the beauty of doing a static fire like this. So exactly. Marcus House says percussion type scenario where they rip the vessel apart. You're right. The sound and those things, they can be modeled in a simulator, and they do a lot of engineering to make sure that they won't have these issues. But nothing quite tests anything like the real world. So cross your fingers, guys. It's going to be crazy. They're going to be cautious with it. So give them some patience. We've waited this long. We've waited since 2013 to see the Falcon Heavy fly. What's another 6 months if it need be? I'm not saying it's going to take 6 months, but I want them to be slow and steady and take their sweet, sweet, sweet time with it, because there's nothing worse than rushing something and having go fever. Don't forget, we've waited until they had a mature enough Falcon 9 that could successfully land continually. Look at this thing. It lands pretty much without fail these days. I think that no matter what, they've waited this long for Falcon Heavy to have a mature enough vehicle that can successfully land over and over. So now we get to see Falcon Heavy fly. They're going to be slow and patient with it, which they need to be. So do I think ITS and BFR or BFR and BFS is feasible? For those of you that don't know, BFR, Big Falcon Rocket, Big Falcon Ship, or Big Effing Rocket, Big Effing Ship, also known as ITS, the Interplanetary Transportation System, which is the worst name because when you just read it, it says it's. So I have to say, I 100% think it's feasible, but it will scale up. They're going to be doing a subscale version of it first. We are pretty much assured of that at this point. It'll probably end up being a medium-sized launcher, or a medium heavy lift, I guess. In the world, actually, it'll probably be the biggest rocket flying. It'll probably be about New Glenn size, if I were just to venture a guess. A bigger diameter vehicle. The reason they're going to do it smaller than the full-scale BFR, BFS is it's a lot cheaper to make changes quickly and rapidly on a smaller subscale vehicle. The costs come down. They will be doing, they will be evolving this thing very quickly. It's a lot of new technology, just like the Falcon 9. The Falcon 9, like I said earlier, hasn't changed almost at all, or it hasn't stayed the same almost at all from any launch, back to back to back. Everyone has small tweaks. Literally every single Falcon 9 is an evolution. So they're going to be doing that on the subscale BFR, BFS. You know, they'll probably be launching, seeing, okay, that didn't quite work out. Let's tweak it until they're ready to scale the thing up. So there we go. Let's see. I said, somebody asked me, why does the Falcon 9 have a double sonic boom? People argue about double or triple. In person, I only heard 2. In most videos, you only hear 2. People do say it has triple, but I think it really only has 2. It's from the 2 leading edges. You get a sonic boom from the engines as they go transonic, and also the grid fins are another leading edge. So those 2 surfaces both produce their own sonic booms. So that's why you end up getting 2 sonic booms. Since the first Falcon 9 landings, we've only had 3 landings fail. And all 3 of those were on the drone ship. Great. Yes, Ozzy, that's exactly right. They are very, very precise, very accurate, and very reliable at landing now. I would almost even ride on the first stage of a Falcon 9 quick and just land, because it's getting pretty reliable. So all right, so Fred, I want to answer Fred and Alpha's. Alpha, real quick, your question first. My opinion about Falcon Heavy first payload. I want it to be 3 Teslas, 3 Tesla shells. A Model 3, a Model X, and a Model S. Just the shell. And I want them to go out and be put in like cislunar orbit or lunar orbit or Earth orbit and have cameras, little cameras that fly around. And then you get to see, you can go to teslasinOrbit.com. And it'd be the greatest marketing campaign ever. 3 cars just orbiting in space. And you can just like log in and see the Falcon Wing doors up there hanging out in space. Oh, I think that'd be the coolest thing ever. That's what I want the Falcon Heavy test payload to be, because it would be not only the coolest marketing advertisement, they have to put something on this thing. Granted, to even have it be a payload capable of any kind of space, anything, it'd probably end up being like, $200 million or something. That being said, I want that. Make it happen. Come on, Elon. You're like the only person that can put your own cars into space. You have a rocket capable of doing it. If you don't do it, I'm going to be sad. But that's what I think. So, hey, Philip, thank you. Remember, I'll come talk at your school. Make it happen. And again, I'll work on my website that has a really crappy landing page about public speaking, and we'll make it better. The other question, do I have any plans for future travel? I travel a lot, and my schedule is very flexible. I did mention not being able to come to Australia, but I do want to come to Australia. I'm very sad. I was at IAC last year, and I do want to, again, for the record, I did ask a question last year at IAC, and it was maybe one of the only good ones. I'm not ashamed of it. There were some terrible questions. I did ask that question, though, of how they plan to refuel the BFS, basically. I asked, are you going to be putting people on board and then fueling it 5 times while they're on board? Or are you going to park it in orbit, fuel it up, and then send another ITS to basically put people on once it's safe and fully fueled? That was my question. I thought it was appropriate, as opposed to asking whether or not I could kiss Elon, or whether or not I could give him a comic book, or whether or not I could send Michael Cera to Mars. There we go. I don't want to say all questions sucked, but most of them were awful, considering it was one of the biggest announcements of our lifetime. Yes. So, okay. I would agree that Australia would be incredible this time of year, but I just can't afford to at all. We are penny pinching, my wife and I, right now, as I transition out of full-time photography and into this. Literally, the only money I make right now on YouTube is a little bit of ad revenue. Very little bit of ad revenue. The most I've made from a video is $500, and that has 200,000 views. So that shows you how much money you can make on YouTube. Not very much. But then I have my Patreon supporters. So again, thank you to those people, because you're putting some food in my tummy. Without you, I would die. And then these people in the super chat. So thank you guys. So that does not add up to enough money to make it down to Australia this year. But very soon, I hope. So thank you guys. Let's see here. Somebody else had a good question. Oh, you wanted to know my live stream setup. We'll answer that next time, Philip. Thank you, though. So who else? There was another good question up here, too. Where was that? Hold on. Oh, about the Raptor using methane. There's a few reasons. Methane is actually has potential for higher specific impulse. The problem is methane is a lot less dense, so it takes a much bigger fuel tank than Carolox does. So these vehicles actually need to be physically larger, but they have the Raptor engine can have a 3 times higher thrust to weight ratio than the Merlin engine does. That's insane. It will have an insane amount. It has 3 times higher pressure inside the chamber. They can really go nuts with this thing. So methane also has a higher specific impulse in vacuum. So that's great for interplanetary. But the big thing is you can easily mine and create methane on Mars. So that's the big reason. So how was the launch? You missed it. Linus, it was awesome. And also, Linus is my newest Patreon supporter. Thank you so much, Linus, for hanging out and supporting me. That is amazing. So yeah, it was a great launch. It was super quick, super on time. They got it out there before the hurricane came through, and hopefully they are working right now to safe that rocket and get it down and then tucked away before the hurricane comes. Otherwise, that booster is going to go like this. Bye-bye. So, you'd pay for help tips on making your own YouTube videos. Well, John, hit me up. I'll give you some tips. I would love to help you out. All right. Have I seen the Lego Space Shuttle and Lego Saturn V launch tower? Yes. I have the Lego Saturn V, if you can't tell. I also really, the cough. I really do want the launch tower as well, so we should make that happen. Hurricane grid fit testing, yes. With the Catherine, I'm guessing you're asking about the X-37B. So a few things here. X-37B, we don't exactly know what they're doing. They're probably testing. They have tested propulsion up there. They have a cargo bay. Who knows what's in there? Who knows what crazy things they're working on up there? There might be a Canada arm or a small little articulating arm, and they might be. I still think this is totally a lie. I'm making this up. I still like to think they're poking holes in other people's satellites. Tell me they're not. I have no idea, to be honest. They're testing things, and then it comes back down and they check out things and see how they did. So who knows? Do I read this chat? I sure do. W-dade. A Lego moon rocket. Yeah, you can. These are fantastic. Why do rockets need ideal conditions to launch? Brian, that's a great question. They don't all need ideal conditions. As a matter of fact, the Russian Soyuz, is such a tank. It's such a beast. They'll launch in like snow and crazy amounts of wind. Russia don't care. They just do whatever they want. They're like, good enough. Go. This is very different. The Falcon 9, for a fact, is actually one of the most sensitive rockets. Reason being, it's technically the finest rocket ever made. What's fine mean? Well, defining fine in rocket terms means it's skinniest, like the ratio of skinniness to length. It's about at the absolute maximum you can physically make a rocket before it just ends up being like wibbly, like a Kerbal rocket. It's not good. So this is as fine of a rocket as you can basically make. That's right. SpaceX makes the finest rockets. And because of that, things like upper atmosphere winds that are really hard, things coming in sideways can just go kink. I mean, not really, but basically the vehicle can't experience a lot of external forces, sideways and other things. So that being said, a vehicle like Soyuz has a lot better chance of launching. It's girthy, it's somewhat inefficient, yet it's super reliable. So yeah, does Russia still do space stuff on a large scale? Russia is currently our only way to get humans into space. Period. They have been since 2011. Technically, we've launched people to the Kármán line, I believe, on Spaceship 2 test pilots. I think. Other than that, and China. China has launched people into space very recently even. But other than China and Russia's the only way we can currently get a U.S. astronaut into space. And that's going to change here in 2018. So yes, Russia still is launching. They're still launching a vehicle that's basically designed in the 60s, virtually unchanged. And it's kind of that if it's not broke, don't fix it. But also Russia doesn't actually really invest that much into their future development. So that being said, the United States will be launching soon. And the big thing is the private industry is taking over because it's so efficient, it's competitive, and we can quickly and rapidly evolve things. We don't get stuck to these like big grand scheme plans and then force our way into making that grand scheme plan work. The space shuttle is a perfect example. People basically said, hey, we need this on it. Make it happen. And somewhere through development, they're probably like, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't make sense, but we have to do it. And the beauty with the private industry, and as opposed to, I want to answer that question. But the beauty with the private industry is we are flexible and we're going to be competitive. We can do things cheaper. Russia doesn't have anything like that. They still just have their state run. They do have private industry in Russia, don't get me wrong, but it's all still state funded, basically, so they don't have any way to do anything really cool. They really love their Korolev crosses. That's when the side boosters of the Soyuz all pop off at once. It makes this really cool cross that like goes like this. It's freaking awesome. I love them too. Russia does what SpaceX does and makes small changes and improvements with every rocket. Really? I didn't honestly know that, to be perfectly honest. I know that recently it was a big deal that they made their interface like digital instead of analog. That's the only change I've really ever heard of the Soyuz vehicle. And I know it does evolve slowly, but I don't think every rocket evolves. Like literally the Falcon 9 is like from one to the next one. They are changing things. And I don't think that's the same with the Soyuz. It is an upgraded R7. There we go. But again, it's been 50 years of evolution. And I think throughout those 50 years, I don't think it's changed more than a handful of times, a dozen times or something, really. Yes, it evolves, but nothing like the Falcon 9 does. The Falcon 9 is literally constantly evolving. So, I'm not sure. Somebody asked, I believe it was my Patreon supporter, asked about whether or not we could use an air-breathing engine for a first stage. Absolutely. That'll happen in the future. Who knows, though? What it comes down to is that actually better than using just a rocket engine? You kind of have to do that keep it simple, stupid thing, of what if we use a first stage with some air-breathing engines that only works for the first, minute, really, and then they're useless and they're just dead weight at that point. There's a trade-off, and it ends up being that typically just making the rocket a little bit bigger with more powerful engine is cheaper and easier than using that. So, do I know prices per launch? Yes, and Skylon spaceplane is an example. So the Skylon, the Sabre engine is a transitional engine. It can go from air breathing to a closed cycle, and then becomes a rocket engine, which is great. And they also fly it like a spaceplane, so it can use more atmosphere for longer. It can use body lift, stay in the atmosphere for a long time, get its speed way up to like Mach 5 or 10 or something, and then boom, light it and turn it into a rocket engine and get into orbit that way. That makes sense. Using an air breathing engine on a traditional rocket where it's going up, and it only is in the atmosphere for about a minute of usable atmosphere, I guess usable to your advantage for a minute and a half, doesn't quite make as much sense. So there we go. Yeah, so there we go. Born in November, if I can have a plane over, something romantic about that. So guys, I think that's going to do it for me today. I have a lot to be doing today. I have an art show this weekend in Iowa. So if any of you guys are in the Midwest, come say hi in Cedar Falls, Iowa. Saturday, I will be downtown with an art show. Yeah, so I have to prepare for that. I still have to make a whole display for it. Whoops. But we're going to go ahead and check out. Again, huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys are literally what's feeding me right now. That's been amazing. It's been overwhelming, the support. Patreon.com/everydayastronaut. Also, you can buy shirts and mugs and other cool things, prints, including prints of SpaceX launches that I've attended. Everydayastronaut.com. Check that out. And also, while you guys are at it, make sure you're subscribed here on YouTube. Tell a friend. Check out my videos on YouTube. I work really, really, really hard on those. So when you guys share it and when you tell your friends, that stuff means a ton. I swear, I know it sounds super cheesy, but when you spend 60 hours on something and then publish it, the feedback, I crave the feedback. I'm not gonna lie. It really means a lot when you guys like it and subscribe and share it. That stuff is very cool. I pay attention. I literally obsess over this stuff. I'm looking at analytics constantly. That's just the fault of being a modern day person, is I obsess over this stuff. So it really means a lot. You guys, it's awesome. James. Thank you, James. James used to have the F word in his name, and I couldn't say it very easily. So again, thank you, James. And John, another Patreon supporter, and Toby. You guys are awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and sign out here, but thank you guys so much again. Thank you. We'll see you at the next SpaceX launch. We'll see you in future videos that I'm working on right now. I should have a new one out by the end of next week, hopefully. Fingers crossed, that's my goal. So I hope you guys have a fantastic, what is it? Is it Thursday? Yeah, Thursday. Have a great Thursday. Have a great weekend. Hopefully it's beautiful where you are. It's beautiful here. I'm excited to get outside and be working on my display for my art show. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. Honestly, it means a lot. But until next time, I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. And outro.
I think we all dreamt about going to space when we were kids. But when the space shuttle program ended in 2011, I discovered a void in my life. That emptiness led to a newfound obsession with space. A few years later, I wound up bidding on a Russian spacesuit as a joke. When the box arrived at my doorstep, my friends asked, "What are you gonna do with a spacesuit?" The answer? What can't I do with a spacesuit? That's how Everyday Astronaut was born. Since then, the suit hasn't left my side. It's even gone around the world with me. From remote villages in Myanmar,
Rockets and spaceships.
to beautiful fields in Norway.
I'm fighting a cow to get a picture right now.
Here I am on vacation in the beautiful Norway with my beautiful boyfriend.
I even proposed to my wife in the suit at Machu Picchu in Peru. These days I work with leaders in the space industry to create fun and inspirational content. I've even been invited to different NASA facilities across the country, all for the sake of sharing my excitement with the world.
Hey there, it's me, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware, but NASA is doing some incredible things.
This is church for us space nerds. This is where Gene Kranz was sitting when people first got on.
This is with permission. I still don't know how. I love that I'm standing on something that says urine bags. This thing's gonna fly like a cat in heat. Whatever that means. That dog's gonna have a sore throat by the end of the day, I'll tell you that. Especially once he tries to explain to his friends that he just saw an astronaut flying majestically through the sky for an hour.
This thing has officially become the bane of my existence.
Everyday Astronaut's mission is to bring space down to Earth for everyday people, to communicate science through humor and imagination, but most importantly, to spark your curiosity, to want to find your place in the cosmos. Join my adventures as I seek to find out why exploring space is important, inspiring, and quite frankly, really, really neat. Show your support by visiting patreon.com/everydayastronaut.